I'd like to talk about keeping your loved one's memory alive after losing them. But before we start talking about that, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Ghazala at the Heart and Soul Cafe. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I so appreciate it. And if you're here for the first time, thank you so much for coming. How do we keep that person's memory alive, the person that we've lost? I think, so for those of you who already know, I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, but for those of you who are watching me or sort of meeting me for the first time, I very sadly lost my son 4 years ago. He had a sudden cardiac arrest. He was 22 years of age. And my world fell apart. My whole world fell apart. The whole horizon changed. Nothing looked the same. The world didn't look the same. I didn't look the same. I didn't feel the same. I didn't understand where I fitted in the world. So it's all, derealization, depersonalization, and dissociation was what I was experiencing. I talk about, and I have in previous videos talked about my depression and going into depression as a result of losing my son. And I suppose I was really quite severely depressed for at least 6 to 8 months after losing my son. And then I talk about getting to a crossroad in my sort of my head, and that crossroad refer to two options, and one option was to just give up and say, that's it, I'm done, I can't go on further from this, there's no way I can get my life back into any kind of functional normality, I'm not going to be able to do this, I give in, I'll just wait to die. And the other option was to do something in my son's name. And thankfully, that's the option I chose, because I did consider that first option. I did dwell on that for some time. But I chose the latter, and the reason why I chose to do something positive in my son's name was because I felt that I needed to keep his memory alive. He's gone. I can't do anything about that. I can't bring him back. I can't, if I could go to the ends of the earth, go to the ends of the world somewhere, and that would guarantee him coming back, then I would do that. I would do anything to bring him back, but I know I can't do that. I know I can't. So then I started thinking, well, he's gone at the age of 22. He never got a chance to live his life. He had so much that he wanted to do, so much life he wanted to live, and so many places he wanted to go, and he hadn't even decided properly what he wanted to do as a career, as a job. He had a few ideas, but he hadn't really seriously thought about anything. He was still at university, he was still studying, so then I started thinking, well, okay, his life has been cut short. I still probably, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but probably, I'm not at old age, I'm not young, but I'm not, more middle age. I'm not, if I have some time, well, then, I might have 20 years, I might have 30 years, I don't know. But maybe I can take this as an opportunity to do something good in this world before I exit it, in my son's name. That was the thinking. And that's when I started thinking, well, okay, this is what I've decided to do, but what does that look like? Because I don't have any ideas and I don't know what to do. So how do I keep my son's memory alive? How do I make sure that he's not forgotten? How do I leave some kind of legacy here before I leave? What can I do? Well, the first thing I thought of, well, let's start up a charity. And I'd never had a charity before. I'd never even run a business myself before. And running a charity is a little bit like running a business, although I don't really see it that way, because well, you don't make money for yourself. It's all, any money that's, that we raise is all for the charity and for that benefit. So there was that. And there was people saying to me things like, oh, running a charity is, a really big responsibility and there's lots of hard work. And I thought, how hard can it be? And, and I wasn't really sure what they meant, and I did actually have this thinking, or I did ask a question, does it mean, 3 nights out of 7 every week, I'm sort of staying up till 2, 3 in the morning, working hard on something? Is that what it means? Is that what you mean when you say it's really hard work? Anyway, I've not really had that. I am running a charity. I do have help from my family and loved ones around me, and we do raise money, and we've already produced a 5-bed ICU in an already existing hospital, and that's a running ICU facility. And that is, we've created that from nothing, in my son's name. So that's something that's already going. I do have long-term goals, which I haven't really shared in any great detail. I think it's probably still early days, but I do have some long-term goals and what I would like to do as to, leaving that legacy. But the charity in itself is a legacy, because hopefully my daughters, will take it on, and my elder daughter is quite involved in that, and hopefully, it goes on to their children taking over it. So, hopefully it's something that will be ongoing within our family. And another thing that I do is I volunteer for a charity where I counsel, support, befriend women who have also experienced child loss. That is so rewarding for me, because, no amount of money could give me what that gives me when women, say things to the effect of, you were there, you just sort of cropped up out of nowhere when I was at my lowest. And, I felt that there wasn't anyone around who was going to understand what I'm going through. And that was something that frightened them. That was frightening, and thinking about the future, and not, because grief can be very isolating, and it can be very lonely. It can be a very lonely experience where you feel that you are just in it on your own, and that can be quite an overwhelming feeling on top of, other symptoms of grief that you might be feeling, that loneliness, and that, well, no one really understands, because you get so much of, if you do start sharing what you're experiencing, and if it's, for example, that you've lost a child, and I've had this myself. Oh, I know what you're going through because I lost my mother, last month. Well, her mother was maybe, 83, and I think, well, okay, although I don't want to compare one loss to another, but to lose a mother at the age of 83, and to lose a son at the age of 22, there seems to be a little bit of an imbalance there. And, it's my opinion that, yeah, I think there's no comparison there, but some of you may feel differently. And I've also lost my mother. I lost my mother, and she was only 50 years old. So I feel that she left us far too soon as well. Had she have lived, to the age of 70, 80, I might have felt differently. I don't know. I think I would have done. Like losing my son at the age of 22, I think I would have felt differently if I'd lost my parent, my mother, at the age of, in her 70s or 80s, as opposed to losing her when she was 50. I lost my father when he was 83. And, I felt that, yes, he'd lived a complete life. He'd lived a good life. He lived the life that he wanted to live. And, so I feel differently towards that, losing my dad, to losing my mother, to losing my son. It feels quite different. So, yeah, I think I've sort of diverged a little bit, but yeah, so I think, volunteering for a charity, yes, it's been absolutely wonderful doing that. And so many times I've said to, my clients maybe said, or I've said, that it was, your son or daughter that you very sadly lost, and my son that I have very sadly lost, that have brought us together, that as we're having this conversation. And sadly, it would have been better if we didn't have to have the conversation, that we hadn't have lost our children. But we're sort of talking about it on the basis that we are in this place, very sadly, unfortunately, but you do make those meaningful, deep connections with others as a result of that. And I have definitely done that, because I've become more empathetic, more compassionate, more understanding of others. And I feel that, losing my son has brought out, in some ways, the best of me, the best version of me that could possibly have emerged, and a version of me that would not have emerged had I not have lost my son. Okay. So reaching out to people, connecting with people on a deep level, and reaching out and saying, I'm here if I can do anything to help, and not really expect anything in return. And that is quite something that, I felt that I hadn't seen in this world that much. There's always, like that thing about you don't get anything for nothing, you don't get anything for free. But, you do. The kindness that you receive from others, that smile, that someone reaching out to give you a hand, to help you when you're struggling, when you're lost, when you need that help, and not expect anything back. You do get that. You do see that in this world. It's not all about that then that person expects something back from you. It's not always like that. I'm glad to say. So I hope you found the content of this video helpful. It is something that's ongoing for me, keeping my son's name alive so he is not forgotten is so important for me, and it's something that I will probably carry on doing until I can no longer physically do it. I will carry on doing it. This YouTube channel is something that's quite new. It's only been over 1 month that I've started it. But again, it's even this is all in my son's name. The reason why I'm doing it, to try and reach out to a wider audience, a bigger audience, to try and help, to try and start a conversation, to try and create a platform, to try and create a community where we can help each other, and we can talk about, grief, loss, mental health, bereavement, without, someone feeling that, why are you talking about this again? Shouldn't you have got over it by now and move on by now? We don't want to hear that. We just want to hear what's real. And what's real is we do grieve, and we might be grieving for the rest of our lives. And it doesn't mean to say that this is all morbid and we're all just, here, it's all miserable and we're dragging our knuckles on the floor, because it's not about that. We can have a laugh, we can smile, we can absolutely smile, and we can absolutely have a laugh too. But we can also realize and understand that we are grieving, and this is a normal response to the loss of something, someone, the end of something, and the end of someone. And that's what we're experiencing. Along with everything else that we can experience in our lives, we are experiencing this grief. And that's what it is, and that's how it is. Right? So thank you for watching this video. Do like, subscribe, do share, do comment. Thank you so much for those of you who have subscribed, but we need lots and lots and lots more to build this community and to build this platform. But thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, take care of your hearts and souls. Thank you.